Welcome to Corwin's Teacher to Teacher podcast with host Carol Pelletier Radford. Carol is an experienced classroom teacher, university educator, founder of mentoringinaction.com, and author of 4 best-selling professional books for teachers. She believes the best form of professional learning happens when teachers engage in authentic conversations and share their wisdom. In every episode, Carol and her guests share stories about pivotal moments in their careers, successful classroom strategies, and personal actions they take to minimize stress and stay healthy. The Teacher to Teacher podcast is a place to engage in authentic conversation and reflection with experienced educators. We hope these conversations will energize you, keep you inspired, and remind you why you chose to become a teacher.
Hello and welcome to the Teacher to Teacher podcast. I'm Liz Gilday, Senior Acquisitions Editor here at Corwin. This season of the podcast focuses on mentoring in action, and today's episode is about dilemmas of practice. Our guests are Bailey Wilcox and Vanessa Halling, who are mentee and mentor pair. Their mentorship relationship started when Bailey was a student teacher in Vanessa's classroom and has continued now that Bailey has her own classroom across the hall. In 2024, Bailey was named Student Teacher of the Year, and Vanessa was named Outstanding Clinical Educator by the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. I found this to be such a bright and hopeful conversation with these award-winning educators. Carol, Vanessa, and Bailey talk about the stance and supports that have made their mentor partnership successful. Then they jump into common dilemmas, ranging from making content and curriculum relevant to students to classroom management challenges. And they talk through how Bailey and Vanessa have worked on these in their own classroom. I love the wisdom that Bailey and Vanessa share about how they make their students feel seen, listened to, and valued. This episode made me excited for our new generation of teachers, and I hope you'll find it as inspiring as I did.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carol Pelletier Radford, and I'm the host of the Teacher to Teacher podcast. And I'm so excited to have a mentor and a novice teacher as my guest today. And it's a special episode on dilemmas of practice. So we'll find out what dilemmas occur in teaching. And of course, this season 4 is related to mentoring. So we will have some mentoring dilemmas and then we'll have some teaching dilemmas. And I'm happy to introduce Bailey and Vanessa. Could you each introduce yourselves and we'll hear your voices? And just for the listening audience to know, they're actually sitting side by side in their school. So this is exciting to have to see both of you. Bailey.
Hello. My name is Bailey Wilcox. I am a beginning teacher at Mallard Creek High School in CMS. And Vanessa Halling is my mentor and was also my clinical educator when I was a student teacher.
And tell us what CMS is for our listeners around the world.
It's the Charlotte-Mecklenburg School System in North Carolina.
Thank you. Vanessa, introduction, please.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Halling, and I have taught in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools for over 16 years. And again, I was Bailey's clinical educator for a semester.
All right, so you know each other. Now, my listeners know that I usually don't choose guests that know each other because we like to have a conversation that is authentic and different, but maybe in this conversation you'll find out some things about each other that you may not have shared yet, even though you have worked pretty closely in the relationship. I'm going to start this off with Bailey. Tell me why you chose to become a teacher. It's really hard right now, and you're in the first year of teaching. You did your student teaching. You've had a good experience with Vanessa, and that's why you're here on this podcast. But I'm curious to know, where did this begin?
Yes. So, my mom was a kindergarten teacher in North Carolina for 28 years. And so I grew up with a teacher in the house. I knew what the struggle was. And I, for a little while, tried to avoid it. I went to college and I tried out a couple different majors. I wanted to try some things and see what I liked, but I kind of knew deep down that teaching was where I wanted to end up. I was always very good at it. I was always a teacher's assistant. And that's just where I knew I wanted to be. And English is my happy place. So
Oh, that's funny. So you have, I think other listeners are nodding. I can hear them like, I tried not to be a teacher. I tried to avoid it, but I couldn't help myself. And then I fell into it anyway. My two sons are teachers and they said, we're never going to be teachers because we see how hard you work. The kids are not good all the time. They gave 10 reasons for why they wouldn't be teachers. And now they're both teachers. My son's a high school AP teacher, and my other son is a video production teacher. So I'm kind of laughing that you tell that story. But why English? Your mother taught kindergarten, so
yeah,
you didn't
yeah.
follow her exactly.
Nope, not exactly. But English, I always thrived in English. That was always my favorite subject when I was a student in middle and high school. And I had some great English teachers along the way that really inspired me and have still inspired my practice today. I love literature. I love to read. And I believe that there's a story out there for everybody. And if somebody doesn't like to read, they just haven't found their story yet. So
I love that. I think that's a famous quote from somebody. I have it on a bookmark somewhere. If you don't like to read, you haven't found the right book. Um, so who was one of your mentors that you admired? I'm just curious to be an English teacher. Was there someone in college or high school? A name. I like to put out the names of people.
I had an English teacher in high school. His name was Mr. Guston, and he was awesome. He was fantastic. We read No Country for Old Men. We read The Crucible. We read such cool stories. We read Carol Ann Duffy poetry, and he made it so accessible for us, but it was so relevant to the world. And I think I always loved to read, but with his class specifically, I really found connection between the stories that I was reading and my real life and the world outside of the classroom.
Wow, I love that. I hope our listeners are taking that in because as a beginning teacher, as I'm listening to you, I'm getting inspired that there's hope for our profession, that young people like you will look back at the mentors, look back at their parents if they were teachers, and not say, no, I'm not going to do this, and take that leap. And even though we will have dilemmas that we'll talk about, um, there's a lot of good in what you just said. So thank you, Bailey, for touching us in that way. All right, Vanessa, why did you choose to become a teacher? What's your story?
Very similar to Bailey. Books have always been a safe haven for me. I love them. I've always have. I've grown up in a house where, we might have been struggling to make ends meet, but if I wanted a book, somehow my mom always made that happen for me. And growing up, I was the kid who, while my friends were playing superheroes on the playground, I was trying to get them to pretend to be my students so I could be
Yeah.
with them. I
You
was
wanted to boss them. Are you the oldest in your family?
I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest, so you
Yeah,
wanted to be the oldest. You wanted
yeah.
to boss.
It's a control thing, but
It is.
but I don't deny it. But boy, I
Oh,
it never went away. And I found out that when I was in middle school, when I was in high school, I was always that kid that would just, I couldn't even help myself. I wanted to help my friends with their stuff in class.
right.
I just wanted to, and teachers would let me 99%
Yes.
of the time, because I enjoyed it so much. And I love writing. I love the teaching of writing. I love all those things. I love seeing words on a page that suddenly appear because they were once in your mind. It never gets old.
Oh, you're so inspiring. So, Bailey, I can see why you would want this to be your mentor as you step into this role as a beginning English teacher. So, how did the two of you connect with each other? I know Bailey mentioned she student taught with you. So how did that happen? What Talk about your university experience and how you learned
Absolutely.
how to teach.
Yes. So I think it was fate.
Yeah.
Fate. Okay, I
So
love that. Okay.
I went to the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, and through my university, we have the Office of School and Community Partnerships that places us in a district, in a school with a teacher, based on our preferences on where we would like to teach and our grade level and things like that. And so I was actually placed with Vanessa the semester before last, because I was supposed to just observe her for a semester before I student taught in her classroom, so I could get to know her practices and get to know her as a person. So it would have been last fall,
Yeah.
where we first met, and I was in her classroom once a week, or the full day once a week, and I was just observing her and her teaching, and we got to know each other. And then the following semester, I started actually student teaching for her.
It's a
And
valuable experience.
Yes.
Able
So
to
many
observe.
people are not having it now because they're entering the profession in alternate pathways because we're losing teachers, and uh, we're discovering that they just don't have that experience. So they're learning to fly the plane as they're teaching, and it's really difficult. So compliments to you, Bailey, for going through that program and being placed there. What was your impression, Vanessa, of Bailey's weekly and then coming into the classroom? And tell us a little about the co-teaching and all of that student teaching experience.
I've had a few student teachers before in my career, and what I loved about this situation was that observation period when she was with me for a whole semester, and there was no pressure. She literally just got to come in and sit and watch. But on my end, it really made me reflect on my practice before student teaching actually began. It made me think, ahead of time, what should I do? What can I do to even make myself better? And we started having those crucial conversations the semester before her actual student teaching experience, where she got to look at my classroom, she got to see, the layout, she got to like do some planning, ask some great questions. She also, without any pressure on her part, she got to see like the good days and the not so good days. She got to see lesson plans that may have been great on paper, but once they were being carried out, they could have been improved with some reflection. And just because I've been teaching, since the dawn of time, still doesn't mean that I can't improve, right? So being open to that possibility and open to that discussion is just a crucial experience.
I
So
love what you're saying, because what I want to underscore is the preparation of a mentor for hosting someone. And you're really hosting in two different ways, that student teacher way, and now you're her mentor and she has her own classroom. So that transition is a little bit different. When I started my work in mentoring, I was, like you, Vanessa, a host teacher for a student teacher. And after I had several, and the university did not give me a lot of guidance. And that's what led to my first book that I wrote decades ago, which was a guide for cooperating teachers who are hosting student teachers. And I still feel that book has a place somewhere. It's out of print now because it was so long ago, where we as educators need to reflect on our practice before bringing somebody in, even to observe. And I really appreciate the way that you were reflective and said, how could I say this to her? Because because we are effective teachers, and effective doesn't mean every day is a good day. Effective means we can reflect, we can look back, we can come from a disposition of helping our students. All that is effective to me. But it's that ability to talk about practice that we don't get unless we prepare our mentors in a very systematic way. And that's what led me to writing my own books, Mentoring in Action, Guiding, Sharing, and Reflecting with Novice Teachers, because we're doing it together. We're not separate from that. And the novice has to be front and center. So, Bailey, what did you just hear your mentor say that you'd like to react or respond to, or an insight you heard?
I think that something that Vanessa did for me, that even in just the observation period, but especially going into my student teaching, that I have valued so much, is that she gave me the green light from the beginning. It was, this is not just my space, this is your space. This is your space to ask questions. You can try things that you want to try. Like, she was always open to, if I had an idea for something that I had seen her teach the semester before and I had thought about, maybe I want to try to do it this way. It was always, absolutely, let's try it out. Let's see how it goes. And then let's reflect together. That was
Right, right.
impossible to me, even
And
now.
thank you for pointing that out. I think it's really important that the teacher's there. I was recently on on another podcast. I think it actually might have been with Kate, one of your uh, colleagues and friends, who we were talking about cooperating teachers who leave the room. So the student teacher comes in, and old school used to be sink or swim. You just do it, and we'll talk about it later. Vanessa, what do you think about that? Do you remember that?
I do. I remember actually being advised that that's what I should do back in the day.
Right,
And
right.
I remember it wasn't always to the benefit of our students or the student teacher. It wasn't
No,
always a great experience. And so very early on, I wanted to just make sure that we were on the same page as she started her student teaching time with me. I wanted to know, like, I- I'll stay, I'll always be present. When you feel like you want to have that space, I'll step aside for a little bit, but I'm
right,
never going to be very far.
right.
I,
Exactly.
I was never more than a breath away or a text away. She always knew that I was going to be there to support her. But
Right,
early on, I just think it's always good for the clinical educator to
right.
be present and supportive.
Yes. So how did we change that? Because that is not the way it was in the beginning, or it was inconsistent. Let's just say some teachers thought that there was no common language for mentoring. And that's what I was hopefully contributing with my books, because I taught for 21 years. I had been the host teacher. That was what I was trying to transfer. So, how did I made that decision personally? And then my goal is to share that with others. How did you make that decision to not leave the room?
I just wanted her because I had had such a great experience with her during the observation period. We had
Okay.
already kind of
Yeah.
gotten to know each other. I just
Right.
wanted to be sure that she felt great about her first few weeks of being in the classroom and actually, like, going through the lessons
Right.
and teaching those lessons. I just wanted to make sure that she was supported. But, I do believe that it is one of those things where a clinical educator should respect that student teacher as a professional, and she was doing such a good job on so many levels that there came a point when I was like, okay, I think I can step away for a little bit
Yes.
and give
Yes.
you, because I wanted the kids to see her as a
Yes.
teacher. I
So
didn't want them
now
to
she
look at
is a
me.
teacher. Yes. So I love what you're saying, because I think what you're saying, it's intuitive, but now we're trying to make it a protocol that all cooperating teachers follow. But you kind of followed your guidance and watched her and so forth. But now she has her own classroom. So how is the mentoring different?
It's definitely it's supportive. She teaches right across the hall from me.
All right, you can still get over there.
So, I mean, we talk all the time. I see her every
Yes,
day. I see
yes,
her every hour.
right,
We're constantly touching base with each other, and
right.
she just knows that, like, my classroom is still her classroom. It's still an extension. She still belongs in there.
So Bailey, it's different for you though. So what's the big difference? Let's just put the elephant in the room. What's the biggest difference
Yes.
this year?
It's, I am in my classroom.
Yeah, say it. Right.
Have total agency in here. And
Yes.
it's different, but it's also, I felt so in control of like my classes when I was in her classroom that
Yes.
different in the way of I am truly by myself in here. Like this is truly my class.
Yeah. I know.
I was used to that feeling. By the end of the semester with Vanessa, I truly felt like those were my students, they were my classes. I had agency in there, and so it was a great kind of gradual release with us in our student teaching experience.
Yes, you too. I'm so glad I had you as a guest because you're modeling the, I guess I don't want to say perfect, but the perfect way in which we can prepare our teachers and the gentle release, and it's that metamorphosis, it's that transformation. Um, and it's that guidance, Vanessa, that you're giving, that you intuitively know about, but that I want you to continue to share with other mentors. I'm into the common language and having everybody at the school kind of follow these kind of protocols. So it isn't just this, Vanessa's the best cooperating teacher and so isn't. You know what I mean. That's how it was when I was teaching, is how beginning teachers talked about their opinions, and we have to change that. If as we move forward to prepare hundreds and thousands of teachers in the next few years, we need to step up, and I want the listeners to hear this beautiful model that the two of you are offering us. Like, this is how it can be: a semester of observing, uh, a student teaching, and the mentor, if it's at the same school, being the same. Is that going to work out for everybody? No, but the principles of it will, right? The principles. Any reaction to what I just said? What do you think about that?
I think so much of what you're saying and what so much of what we did to, I don't know, I don't want to dismiss it and say that it just seemed like common sense, but I think something that should be addressed is that from the very beginning, we had admin support in everything that we were doing. So we had blessings from the powers that be saying, we like this, do what you need to do, continue this relationship, how can we support you? And I think that that's invaluable, moving forward, if we were starting from a school that where this kind of relationship wasn't the norm, I would want to make sure that that was understood from the get-go.
Yes, thank you for underscoring that, because that's what makes it happen in these professional relationships between university and school. That's how I started. It was a partnership. We wanted to be a school where clusters of student teachers came. But to do that, the admin had to be involved, the partnership, the supervision from this college, the students, but the cooperating teachers had to be educated in a protocol so they didn't leave the room. It wasn't informal. It's a formalized practice of entering our profession. And I just love the way the two of you have modeled it for us. Bailey, what do you think about just the whole thing? We are going to get to dilemmas, but I just want to, this is such a rich, important conversation. What do you think about your whole experience?
I am just so grateful for the support that I got, not just from Vanessa, but like she said, from our admin and also from Kate Gilbert, from my university supervisor. That partnership that we were able to build between us and the school and the university was so strong that I think we were bound to be successful. And slight humble brag, we know that we were successful.
Yay!
She and
You
I
brag, you brag.
an outstanding clinical educator of the year and student teacher of the year for UNC Charlotte this year. So we did
What?
get it right.
Say, could you just say that? Let's just step back and say that again. Go ahead. Say it again.
So Vanessa won outstanding clinical educator of the year, and I won student teacher of the year for UNC Charlotte for this school year.
And I think it has never happened at
But from
UNC
the
Charlotte.
Yeah, it's very, I don't know if it's ever happened or if it's very rare that the two were student teacher clinical educator pairings. They're usually
Airing. Oh, it's magic. So I think this is big magic, and I'm going to suggest the two of you to write a blog about this, or because it's not just the award, it's the carrying responsibility of the principles that you're talking about that move this forward so others can do it. I mean, and you're saying it. So here's the thing. We already said there are good days and bad days in teaching. There are a lot of things that push people out of teaching and why people are leaving. And I'm not sure where dilemmas fit, but dilemmas are these decisions that teachers have to make all day long that might conflict with a belief they have or a situation. Um, and they cause stress because when you have to make a decision on your feet and you don't really know what to do if you're a beginner, then yes, you move forward and you do something. So tell me just Bailey, just share it. What dilemmas occurred to you when you were student teaching or this year or anything? What do dilemmas mean to you? And I just want to put dilemmas in the conversation.
I think a dilemma for me that I've sort of had to deal with going from student teaching to being a licensed teacher is going from the jump from English 4 to English 1. That was
Okay.
that was a pretty big step for me. I was a little bit worried about it at first of these kids, what if they're so different and the curriculum, and I just, I spent this whole semester really diving into English 4 curriculum, and now I'm going to English 1 and it's totally different. And so that was a dilemma for me kind of going into this semester. But I think, again, having Vanessa as that support system and knowing that the relationship with the kids is what's really going to drive my instruction, and that whether they're freshmen or seniors, my principles of being an educator remain the same, and my practices may change a little bit, but in general, I'm a teacher first and they are students, and that's
Yes.
gonna be okay. Like, and that was
And
what I had to
and
tell.
it's the content. So was your dilemma how to deliver the content because you had just like learned how to deliver that content to seniors? Was that the dilemma or was it um I don't know, something else?
Yeah, I think the content was part of it, especially since with English 1, I have the option for a flex novel. So I can choose from a list
Okay.
of novels to teach them.
Okay. You get to choose something. So
Yes.
that's a dilemma. Let's talk about that a little bit. So how did you decide what to choose?
I used guidance from my English 1 PLC. In addition to, I chose a novel that I had read previously when I was a freshman in high school, and that
Okay.
I knew with my students I could make relevant to them, because I looked back at what do I know that I can make relevant to them. And
Okay. What was share what did you choose? What's the title? What's the novel?
Speak by Lori Halse Anderson.
Okay, speak. And are you teaching it now? What's the reaction from the students?
I am. I'm teaching it now. We're about a third of the way through it, and they have loved it so far.
Okay, we like that. We like Vanessa, dilemmas. When I said dilemma, what did you think we'd be talking about? What does it mean to you as a teacher, as a mentor, as a human?
I think something that I can talk about would definitely be appreciated among any of your veteran educator listeners. I teach in a district that has adopted very strict mandated curriculum. I won't say the name, but I mean, it's
Yeah,
basically, you will teach this and you will
okay.
teach this way, this day, you will follow this pacing. Um, and we've done it now for a few years. And I can say that the struggle has certainly gotten easier, but one of the things that proved to be a real stress factor when over the first couple of years that it happened, was realizing or finding that perfect match between teaching what has been placed in front of me that I'm required to teach, a curriculum, not a text, but a whole semester's course, and finding ways to make it still my own and put my own flair in it, my own way to engage students and working with my PLC together so that we can find ways to make it so that it's not just the kids opening up to a page, answering some questions every single day. We really wanted to try to embellish it, enrich it, make it meaningful, make it relevant, make it current, make it something that the kids in our particular district and our school would truly benefit from. And it was tough. It was tough, but
It is tough.
and
Yes.
Bailey inherited that ongoing process. She could see that, you think that when you're a student teacher, when you're in college, you think that you're going to be able to, you'll have some things that are required, but yet you'll still be able to kind of, I'm going to teach this because I want to, because kids will love it. That's often the dream. And maybe it used to be that way, but it's not so much anymore. So, that kind of relationship, that kind of dialogue is I think going to be part of educators' futures. And it's important that new teachers kind of realize that so that they can work with their cooperating teachers and their respective PLCs to try to find that mesh, that marriage between what is mandated and what is your own.
Yes, thank you. That's the biggest dilemma of all. Thank you for introducing it. Even when was teaching, it was the basal reader when I was at elementary. And it was like Monday, you do vocabulary, Tuesday, you do the questions, Wednesday. And I remember what you're saying and trying to find out because I wanted to do TV shows and record albums with book titles and all kinds of innovative things. But I guess I probably can go on record saying I was a pretty subversive teacher. I'm not advocating that now, but at the time, I felt that I could teach everything in the basal, and there was time for me to do my radio show because teachers are creative and we can there are rules in school. We get it. We know what we're getting into. We chose teaching. We all chose it because we want to boss people around. Not really, but we like that level of control. But then when we lose some of it, Vanessa, you've said it beautifully. That is a major dilemma that incoming teachers and current teachers are facing. And tell me one way you've been able to embellish or make relevant, as both of you are saying, we're trying to engage our students. The only way you can engage students is make it relevant, that they want to be engaged. So tell me something you've done. I'm just curious.
I
It,
think many English teachers have a creative bone. I
yes,
think we're all artists at heart in our own
yes,
way. And I think one thing that we've kind of we just instantly got on the same page with was we wanted to find ways where we could provide our students options to, in their own way, show their mastery of a text. So with every unit that we covered, there would usually be, whether it be like one assignment, maybe a quiz grade or a project, where students would have options where they could, using their own gifts,
yes,
their understanding and their connection to a text. So we did that with works like Pygmalion, which was a novel where we were required to teach that novel. And we just wanted to find ways to make it relevant, make it current, make it meaningful and applicable to students in 2024, 25.
right.
And so we worked with that. We incorporated like modern music and modern poetry and modern film. And we just found ways where they could see the similarities and the archetypal characters and the themes are still there. They're very much the same. Just the clothes are different. The accent
Yes,
is different.
yes,
But we tend not to change so much as human beings. We kind of want the same things ultimately. So having, finding ways to help students realize that makes it fun
yes.
and
And
for
that's
us
what they
to,
want. That I remember seeing many Shakespeare plays that were modern day, and it's fun to listen to and watch. And so kudos to you and to our listeners is it's not just about English. Everything is having mandated curriculums across the spectrum. So we all need to just add our creative bones to it. I think that's a great, hopeful stance for us to take so we can still be teachers and connect to our students and add that sprinkle into every class. And like I did with the basil, we still did the radio show at the end of the class and covered all the bases. So I just want to put up another dilemma that novice teachers and mentors have talked about with me about classroom management always comes up. If I say, "Oh, what's your biggest thing?" It's classroom management. But for me, when I dive into classroom management, it has different boxes. It could be managing your paper. It could be managing your classroom routine. But when we say it, we think it's the students. We think classroom management, it's my students, it's how I react with my students. So I like to always unpack that a little bit. Um, and I do want to talk about the student part of it because the paper management is a thing to discuss, and the way you set up your classroom is a management thing, and time. When do you stay and correct papers? But the fourth one is the one that most people think we're talking about is how do you manage off-task students and students who aren't doing homework and it's a dilemma for beginning teachers, I think. I don't know, Bailey, is it a dilemma for you of how to relate to students who might not be doing everything you want them to do?
Yeah, I think it can definitely be a struggle, and I will say I have been very lucky so far to have very few of those instances in my time in the classroom. But yeah, I think that that can quickly become an issue, especially if, like we were just talking about, if the content is not relevant to students and if they do not feel like they have a reason to be actively engaged in what we're asking them to do. It can be so quick, especially when students, like at our school, students all have their own Chromebook that they are assigned to. So they have access to that technology immediately that they can, it's so easy for them to veer off task if you are not.
Right, right. So what do you do, Bailey? Like, I know you don't have a lot of them, but you must have one or two instances, and maybe there's one that you and Vanessa have talked about. So can you share one with us?
I think that something that I try to do as a proactive measure to kind of avoid those situations is that relationship building piece. I think if you can form those foundations with them from the very beginning, from the get-go, where they understand that you have respect for them as a human being and for their belongings and for their time, they will give you that same respect back. And I think that's something that we both were on the same page with, especially with English 4 with the seniors. We talked about before the semester even started, they're about to go out in the world. And Mallard Creek and CMS as a whole has a kind of mantra of enrolled, employed, or enlisted. That's how we want our students to graduate. They're going to school, they're in the workforce, or they're enlisted in the military. And so, especially with the seniors, they're about to leave us, they're about to go out in the world. And so we wanted to give them that foundation of, I understand that your time is valuable. Just please give me the respect to do what I need you to do. We avoided a lot of that
You
from,
did. Vanessa, want to chime in or
Well,
share a story?
your question has made me think of something that I have to brag about Bailey. I have to brag on her for this.
Okay, let's brag.
No, she did something that is so seemingly simple, but she reminded me just how important it is. She did something every single day that I can't say that I used to do, but now I do. She honestly started every single day by honestly just saying, "How are you? How is everybody?" And she would honestly give them like 1 or 2 minutes and just see who would say something. And you would be amazed, the more she started doing it, people would say, I'm really burned out. I'm really tired. And she would listen to them for like a couple of minutes. And it wasn't wasted time because that relationship happened so quickly, and that trust with it for her happened so quickly. It was authentic, it was real, it was palpable. And as an observer, I would just sit back sometimes and go, I think that sometimes, but I don't remember that I've always said it. I would just jump in and say, hey, how y'all doing? Hope everybody's doing well. Let's get to the warm up. And
Right.
yeah, she has changed me for the better in that respect, because now I do that every single day. I look at them and I'm like, how are y'all? And it's amazing, that simple little move, what that does.
It does make a huge difference. And I can hear your mentee mentoring you. And that is what we always say, is that mentors will say to me, I got more out of this than I think I gave. But your your sentiment of her doing that and your willingness to do it yourself and to see the power of it is really important. I, my first video that I ever produced, I have a lot of videos on my website. I hope you'll take a look. But the very first one I did was with a group of high school students. My son's a videographer, and I asked all the students these questions off camera, and then we filmed them. And basically, the theme was how how your teacher can be a better teacher, basically, because I was teaching a course at the university, and I was going to show the video to my teachers and say, this is what students are saying. They're not your students, but they're students. It was so powerful. I'll send it to you. And they said exactly what you just said. So many of them said, don't just jump into the content. Can you just ask me? I'm a human being. Can you just ask me, how was my weekend? How was my day? And it has stayed with me for decades. And it's so relevant. And Bailey, why did you do that? Why did you do it because you were a student that wanted your teacher to do it? Why did you do that?
I think going into student teaching, a lot of what my college courses prepared me for is classroom management. And what do you do with students who are on their technology and they're not supposed to be? Or what do you do with students who are disobedient in this way or the other? But when my sort of philosophy about it always was, they're people. Like they're kids. They want to know that you care about them. Just like we want to know that our students want to know about us. Like it's fun when they ask you questions about yourself. And so I think it was just something that, especially with the seniors, because I'm young. And so I wanted to find that fine line of being their teacher and being the authority figure in the room, but also being somebody that they can talk to and that is a part of their generation. Like me and them are both Gen Z. We come from the same world. So wanting them to know that, yes, I am your teacher and we have things to do, and I'm going to ask you to do things and answer questions and read text because this is English class, sorry. But also knowing that I do genuinely want to know about them as people. And that was always something that I wanted to bring into the classroom.
We're going to end there, folks. It doesn't get any better than that. The voice of our next generation of teachers. I'm so proud. Vanessa, we're handing it over to, I feel safe and comfortable and inspired by the new generation of teachers mentoring us and bringing forward all of these ideas. I'm going to end the show with affirmations. I like to end each episode with some affirmations. The affirmations I've chosen today for mentors who are listening: I collaborate and empower my novice teachers to solve daily challenges. And for the novice teachers out there, and for all teachers, I am empowered to solve my own daily challenges. So to all our listeners, Bailey, Vanessa, you're awesome. I hope you learned something from each other new today, even though you knew each other so well. To our listeners, I hope you'll tune in for episode 9, which you two will want to hear, is called Student Voices.
Thanks, everyone, for joining today's teacher-to-teacher conversation. We hope this time together energized you, inspired you, and reminded you why you chose to become a teacher. You can purchase any of Carol's books and any books mentioned in the podcast online at www.corwin.com. Please leave a review and share this podcast with your colleagues. Thank you for listening to the Corwin Teacher to Teacher podcast, a place to share teacher wisdom and engage in authentic conversations with experienced educators.
Come explore Corwin's free new teacher toolkit and resources. We've curated these resources based on extensive research from teachers, coaches, and principals alike. Whether you are brand new or a veteran teacher, find ready-to-go teaching tools at corwin.com today.